Say recording in progress. Okay, okay, it does.
Yep, we're good to go.
Thank you. Well, welcome everybody to our second session of our Meet the Midwife series for the Wombs of the World Summit. So happy to have you here. It's so exciting to have just global birth workers coming together and hearing each other's wisdom. And we are joined today by one of the most incredible women I've had the pleasure of connecting with so far in my lifetime, Motsei. We connected maybe a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago. I might be getting ahead of
Yeah,
myself.
yeah.
And just, the kind of connection that for me felt divinely orchestrated to connect with someone on the other side of the world who shares in the same heartbeat that you all also have for this work. But Mmatshilo has taken it so many steps further, and I think she's doing like generational past and future work for all of us in this work, and she is graciously sharing it with us. So starting as a young midwife when she was in her early 20s to now having a PhD in traditional midwifery of South Africa and so much in between. I am just so grateful to have you here today. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for the
And
invitation.
yes, so much wisdom. Every single time Mmatshilo shares something with me, I just feel it on like a soul level. So gear up for whatever she has in store for us, really. But would love to let you all know that we're going to let her share for about an hour, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. So if you have questions come up, feel free to jot them down or put them in the chat. We will be monitoring it, and would love to hear from you all as well as the hours progress. Um, Anything else before we dive in and give Mmatshilo the floor? Good. Well, welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Uh,
much. Am I audible enough? Okay. Let me start by introducing myself. My name. My name is Mmatshilo. Tshilo is the rock that indigenous people used to grind corn. So I'm the mother of the rock. And the story about my birth, because there is a process when a baby is born, there's always like a naming process or procedure. As the first child of my family, I was supposed to be named to my father's youngest aunt. And my father's youngest aunt was soft-spoken. She didn't fight for my name. She didn't say, "This is my right. This is the baby that who must be named after me." And then it turns out that my paternal grandmother, Mmatshilo, was much more stronger. The story goes that she took her duke off and kind of plunked it on the floor and said, "This is me." And then there was a conflict around, you can't name a baby after two old people. Legend says that if you name a baby after two old people, they are going to end up being crazy. So ultimately, I'm named after two old people. One who's very outspoken, they're all gone, but I speak about them as if they're here. One who is strong, outspoken, Mmatshilo, and Ntswatswa, who is soft, who's soft-spoken, who's kind. And then in terms of the madness, I've also welcomed the madness. You know, that if it is true that when you name a baby after two old women, they end up mad, yes. I think my entire life has been one of of madness. But the madness was difficult, especially in my teens, because when you grow up as a young woman and you carry a gift and you are a nonconformist, you question everything. You refuse to conform. So my youth was much more difficult. The madness was much more heavier during my youth. And as you know, when we grow up as girls, one of the ways in which we are conditioned is that we need to be good girls because who's going to marry you? That's the question that you're asked. And somehow then marriage becomes the climax of our lives. There are so many other dreams inside of ourselves that we let go for approval so that we should be seen, we should be approved, we should belong, and ultimately reach what is the climax of my life. And then the madness also became quite strong during my time as a young woman, as an activist. I worked quite a lot within the space of gender-based violence. I was a leader that was leading from the front. And physically, I'm very small. And people used to say, is this all? You know, when I come through the door, and perhaps they know about the things that I say, the things that I do, and I come in and the question would be, is this all? So now the madness softened. The madness softened now in my 60s as an elder. I think the fierceness and the softness now are able to engage in a dance that makes me who I am. And I am very clear that when there is a space that calls for the fierceness, I bring Mmatshilo through. And when there is a space for the gentleness and the compassion, I bring Ntsatsa through. But I find that lately I operate much more from the softness. I find it much more powerful. And for me, it reminds me of water. Water, soft, flowing, persistent, but it can literally shape a rock. When you go to any river at this point and you see the power of water, which is soft, which has the power to shape a rock. So I think this is basically who I am. I am a mother of 2 boys and 1 girl. They're all adults. But sometimes when I only mention the 3, the voice says, what about those that you terminated? Because in African spirituality, when you choose to terminate a pregnancy, because we believe that birth is not just biological. A baby is not just biology. A baby has a soul. What happens then to the soul when you terminate? So I make it a point that when I say I'm a mother of 3, I also acknowledge the pregnancies that I have terminated and that I have already done a ritual to honor them as well, as a way of making sure that their soul goes home. Sometimes I dream of them, sometimes I see them, So I think I could say physically I have 3 kids, but spiritually I have more than 3 kids. I'll stop here for a bit.
Thank you so much for sharing, for first of all, for sharing that, but also for sharing insight as to the spirituality of African childbirth, especially South African childbirth. I was now wondering if, just kind of jumping around in those questions that I sent you, but the part of what you've created in these last few years is an entire course on the spirituality of African childbirth. Would you be comfortable talking a little bit about what that course has been like in the creation of it and what has guided you to put it out there?
I before I did the course, I ran an online course called Conversations with My Womb. And how that course came about was after I had written a book about Jacob Zuma's rape trial, who was one of the former presidents. Obviously, I got into big trouble, house auctioned, cars repossessed, total isolation. And there was a time when I lived alone in a mountain cabin in one of the most beautiful parts of South Africa. It had waterfalls and rivers. I didn't even know the space, but in the morning I would get up and the voice would tell me to go this direction, go this direction. And one time I went to a certain direction and I found almost like a tree trunk that looks like the half body of a woman and the legs. And the part between the legs was burned by fire. And that's when I saw that image, the idea of starting a course called Conversation with My Womb. And the thing about the course was for us to start thinking about the messages that we have been told when we were growing up. Who said those messages? How did those messages make us feel? Do they still control our thinking as adult women? And also part of it was also to honor women's blood, to honor the womb as a giver of life, and also to recognize that a lot of the time we carry pain in our womb as women. And I always refer to Erykah Badu's song, Bag Lady, that somehow the womb becomes a bag that we carry, where we carry our pain. So that's where the beginning of the course started. And then because I had written a book, I was isolated, I began to censor myself, I was full of fear. I decided to go back full-time to school after having started as a midwife and a nurse and a midwife. And I did psychology. I decided to go back to school and do a master's in creative writing. And creative writing for me felt like a form of initiation because there were certain words that came out that I wanted to suppress because of fear, because of knowing that, because in the past I said certain things as a woman, there's a likelihood that I'm going to get into trouble. So I did that. And the reason why I did that was I realized that I had begun to censor myself. And then I did my PhD in sociology, and the title of my PhD was the role of indigenous midwives in countering obstetric violence. Because definition of obstetric violence from wherever is entirely biomedical. Even the solutions that are put forward are entirely biomedical. They could be about architecture and design of the birth space. They could be about training of birth practitioners. It could be about policy. It could be, but there is no mention of indigenous midwives. And I use the word indigenous midwife intentionally. I don't use the word traditional birth attendant, because traditional birth attendant is a word, is a frame that was coined by WHO. There is a historical process, where multinationals like WHO determine how we name ourselves. And by determining how we name ourselves, they also determine what our role and our functions are. So I would say that the PhD is what made me come with a course on African spirituality of childbirth. Why? I started off as a young midwife who was initiated in a system that disregards knowledge of my people. I was trained as a biomedical midwife. And then it's almost like a 360-degree circle. I did research on indigenous midwifery. And as fate would have it, I went to interview elders in the exact same place where I was trained as a biomedical midwife. And what I found during the research was almost like the colonized and the decolonizing midwife coexisting inside of me. And in my work about decolonization, I always say that the colonial master still exists in some sense. Audre Lorde spoke about we can't use the master's tools to dismantle the master's house. But unfortunately, the master's tools, in some sense, are already part of our DNA. And what do you do then if the master's tools are part of your DNA? You harmonize, you recognize that by virtue of having been colonized, you have split personalities. And when you push out one personality, one split, you push out a part of you. So what I normally do is find a way of healing the different splits. Not kind of rejecting their existence inside of me. What I do is find a way of healing the splits. And I think I've been very lucky that with all of the things that I have studied, I also come from a family of healers, of spiritual indigenous healers. And I also use tools that I have learned from the elders from my family to heal the different splits inside of me. So the course, African Spirituality of Childbirth, this year is the second cohort. What I find amazing from the participants is that they say that they don't feel like it is a birthing course. They experience it like a spiritual initiation course. Because what we, like for instance, last week, the module was on historical background of biomedical model of childbirth, we had to start by understanding some of the mythology from Greece, from Rome, from Christianity, from all the religions, the mythology of Pandora, Eve in the Garden of Eden, and all the other, depiction of women in mythologies, that somehow it was almost like we are being groomed from that point, from as early as those centuries, and preparing for the male takeover of childbirth. And by the time the male takeover of childbirth happened, it was assisted by the church and the state. Those are the two institutions that helped for the male takeover of childbirth. So this course is, even though I'm a facilitator, every time we start a module, I start by trembling and shivering. I carry a lot of fear. And I think the fear is about what's going to come out today in all of us. What are we going to release today? This year is amazing. It's a group from Namibia, from Tanzania, from Uganda, from different places, Zanzibar, and each one is bringing the baggage. But the beauty is everyone knowing that you have permission to bring whatever baggage you carry. And you have permission to express it in whatever way it needs to come out. And our role is to hold space for you. So as of this year, I have decided actually that the retreats that are going to happen going forward are going to become second phase of the course, meaning that we first do like an online theoretical course, and after that we come to South Africa or wherever and spend 12 days or whatever days with elders and go through some form of initiation. So I can see that we have been invaded.
You're good, but you did mute yourself, or you were muted.
Am I okay now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So the long and short is the main aim of the course is for us to return or to remember that the role of the midwife is not just to catch babies. Our role is also to receive a soul with reverence, that we have a duty. I mean, I always say that, imagine if midwives were part of secret societies. Imagine if we were trained to whisper something in the ear of every baby who's born. And whatever it is that we whisper in their ear changes them for the rest of their life. It becomes like their birth chart. So for me personally, if you look at what is happening in the world, if you look at the fact that patriarchy is in a mess, and it's a good thing that patriarchy is in such a mess. The challenge is Are we ready to step up and step in? Because the feminine planetary energy is ready. It was once taken away, but this is time for it to return. Unfortunately, many of us may still fight for a female president without understanding that having a female president is not necessarily going to change our patriarchal view of the world. So the course is an initiation. It's a process where we bring our wounds, we heal ourselves, we reclaim our power.
I have so many follow-up questions, but in I've been echoing that as well, that I feel like the patriarchy right now is on its last legs, and we're seeing that and we're experiencing that. And I love what you just said of like, are we ready to rise up? And I'm curious, I feel as though what you were just saying, like a female president, yes, like great thing to strive for, but that's using the master's tools, that's still working within the system. What will you share a little bit of your insight into if you could design the next phase of society, what would that look like? No big deal.
I would start. Do you know where I would start?
Yeah, tell me.
Preconception.
Okay.
Preconception. Let's pretend that I'm God.
Okay. Yes. Let's please. I would
Yeah.
like to elect that, generally speaking.
And I would whisper in every woman and man's and queer person's ear that before they bring a soul to the world, they have to engage in preconception ritual to ask permission from the soul to come through them. So imagine if you are a soul that has already been invited to come. Chances are when you were born, you wouldn't necessarily forget why you are here. Because most of the time, when we are born, biomedical model of birth is quite violent. When the umbilical cord is cut just like that, or you go through a cesarean section, or you experience any kind of trauma, you forget why you agreed to come. You spend the rest of your life trying to remember why you agreed to come here. So I would start there. I'll start with preconception. And I always use the analogy of, which comes first, the chicken or the egg. If you want new eggs, they'll probably be laid by an old chicken. So this is a question that I don't have an answer for, but I think it's something that we can reflect over time, and then the answers will come.
Mm. And for us, as most of us here are birth workers. In fact, I think everyone present would identify as a birth worker to some extent. What do you think our role is right now in this messy 2025 era that we're in?
To remember the ancient role of the midwife as a spiritual guide. That is the most challenging piece of work. And because we are not trained, whether we're trained as a doula or a midwife, there is no spiritual component of birthing. The least you can do as a doula or as a midwife now is when you are supporting a woman, you can say, ask a simple question. Is there a spiritual practice or belief that you hold dear that I can support you in doing so that it can enhance your sense of cultural safety? Because most of the time when we speak about safer birthing, we only mean that the baby's alive. We never speak about cultural safety. So our role now is to remember, and I cut the re and the member into two words, not one word. Remember, in a sense, become a member again of midwives who were spiritual guides. So, and I also believe that our ancestors are with us all the time, especially the midwives who were there long before we were here. Especially some of the midwives like Agnotis, who was an Athenian midwife, during the time when Hippocrates started a school and women were not allowed into universities. There were midwives who fought. But because she could not win the battle, she had to take a male identity to continue as a midwife. So, our ancestors are all waiting for us. They are all waiting for us to teach, to give us the gifts, to accept us into the membership of midwives as part of the spiritual guides. And I think it's possible. It's possible. The more we meditate over it, the more the answers come. I don't believe that you can be taught to be spiritual by someone. I believe that my role as a spiritual guide is to help you reflect and ask the questions and let the answers come through you. Sometimes I can use divination because I'm also a diviner. Sometimes I can use divination, and maybe the ancestors can speak through divination to say, okay, this is what you should do. This is what you should focus on. But this is a great time to be alive, despite the mess that we see in the world. For those of us who are ready to become soulful regiments, we understand the calling, and we are ready to be guided.
I have to just sit with that for a second. There's so much to what you're saying that I think echoes across so many cultures, which is what I love so much about traditional midwifery, is that there is such a component of spirituality, and the medical system has so stripped that away from birth, like that birth is a medical event and not a spiritual event. Um, can you talk to us a little bit about, in South Africa, working with the indigenous midwives that you work with, some of the spiritual components of childbirth and some of the practices that are still going on, or that have in the past been
Yeah,
going on?
obviously preconception already. I've
Okay.
already spoke about preconception ritual. When you are ready to be a mom, elders may take you to a cave or an anthill. The anthill carries deep, deep, deep wisdom. The ants within the anthill, they are the most amazing architects. So they will take you there and to do a ritual. And obviously, once you conceive, there's a process in which you announce the pregnancy. There's different ways. You start off with an elder who will then take it to someone else. And unlike in modern society, your husband is often the last one to know, because there is kind of a protocol that needs to be followed. And after 3 months, there's also a ceremony that is done, also protection for you. And many of the ceremonies are done around full moon, because of our association with the moon. The moon as the she, our association with the moon, a lot of the rituals are done during that. And then obviously, when you give birth, I always think that perhaps this phrase, "it takes a village to raise a child," comes from "it takes a village to birth a child." Because you are not alone in the room. It's you and a village of women. One of the oldest could be there at the corner. Her role would be to invoke the spirits for safe arrival of the baby and safety for the mother. And the others would be supporting you. So, and also by the time you give birth, you will have observed, as a young woman, you will have been invited to birth, to see what happens, to experience different roles. So it's not something. Antenatal care starts, I always say that it starts from preconception ritual. And when you are pregnant, and when you start being invited to observe birth, it's part of prenatal care. So then others would be naming ceremonies. In the naming ceremony, the father would be the first one who, they whisper the name of the baby to the father. And as the baby is taken out of the birthing heart, the first person to receive the baby is the father. And the father is the first one who's going to whisper the name of the baby in its ear. And by so doing also, we'll do family praises, heroic praises, clan names. But during pregnancy, the father may have done that. Not so much the name, but the family praises, the clan names, that this little thing that's growing in mommy's uterus, get used to this voice and the praises and the clan names, which is part of identity formation. So once it's out and it's in his arms and it hears, it remembers that I'm part of these people. Obviously, we have a big challenge of absence of fatherhood. And there's a certain way that I think we have to find of healing the masculine as well. There's a need to heal the masculine, because there is a role that fathers play in childbirth rituals, and many don't know that there is a role that they play in childbirth rituals.
In A lot of the other countries that we travel to, we learn that a lot of the rituals that the father is responsible for involve the placenta. Is that something that happens in South Africa?
It's different. Obviously, we have different cultural groups.
Mhm,
There would be one cultural group where the placenta would be buried by the father. In other groups, it would be buried by the grandmother. But in a case where maybe you don't have a grandmother or you are an orphan, like I met this woman who delivered 4 babies on her own. And then she specific. I think also because she's a healer, she's initiated as a healer. She knows exactly when and how to bury the placenta. So there's different. The only thing that's common is understanding that by burying the placenta, we're connecting the new arrival to ancestral land. Again, the big issue for us as Black people, as Africans, is land dispossession. The fact that land has been dispossessed means that also birthing knowledge has also been taken away. It means that our connection with the earth has also been destroyed,
mhm.
which impact on birth.
Do you find that when women are birthing in the hospital, they request to take their placenta home?
The situation in South Africa is that mostly that you have to sign an affidavit
To
to
take your
take your
placenta?
placenta home.
Yeah.
But there's a chance that you could even prenatally arrange that you want to take your placenta home. Some of the nurses, midwives, or whoever may refuse. What do you want to do with it? Are you a witch? Or all kinds of kind of accusations. So it is possible, but difficult.
Mm. When you are doing your research for your PhD and reconnecting or connecting with these traditional midwives, how did you find them? How did you begin connecting with them and starting this journey?
I have been working mostly for the greater part of my life. I've been working in rural villages. So I have a very strong connection uh, with all people. And I think also because I'm named after 2 old women, I'm called Granny. Ever since I was a little girl, everybody calls me Granny. So I've been
Mhm.
this girl who's allowed in circles where other girls are not allowed.
Mm,
So it's easy energetically and spiritually for them to accept me. I'm sure they recognize me from somewhere. So this is something that that I'm grateful for. It's something that I don't take lightly. And also it's something, as someone who has been educated in an institution that upholds Eurocentric values, there's a chance also that you can go and do research with elders using a Eurocentric lens, using a colonial research methodology.
mhm,
So I was also aware of that, that almost like keeping myself in check, being aware of my biases, my prejudices. It's
mhm,
important that it's important to be aware of the prejudices that you carry, because once you become aware, then they have less power over you.
Well, it's kind of what you were talking about at the beginning about how you have to, in wanting to decolonize yourself, also recognizing the parts of you that are deeply, deeply colonized and having to like learn and unlearn and then
Yeah.
healing that middle. And that's something that I feel like is buzzing around a lot in the birth world right now, the concept of like decolonizing birth work. I was wondering if you could share some thoughts on just that terminology with us, what you think it means in today's world when we're talking about decolonizing birth work.
Decolonizing anything means losing a part of you. It also means letting go of some of your luxuries. It also means being aware of some of your privileges.
Mhm.
And that when you decolonize, you may have to lose their privileges. So this is what I think about all the time. And also decolonize, the word can even lose meaning. It's a buzzword, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about decolonizing without thinking deeply about, you know, coloniality that in Africa, I don't want to say we are free because we are not free. We have kind of black presidents, but the coloniality remains. I always make an example of opening of parliament in South Africa. Does not remind me in any way of the fact that I'm an African and I'm in Africa. Everything is about what we inherited from the colonizers. So it's quite complex. It's multi-layered.
Mhm.
The way that I approach it is to just start by being aware of my own kind of uh, colonial expressions. Start from there. And I mean, I can give an example of after
Yes, please.
after I did research, I was using indigenous research methodology, and one of the principles of using indigenous research methodology is that when you're done, you have to go back to the community to share the results with them. And they have to decide what they want to do with the results. The day I went to the same village to share the results, I was meeting with a traditional healers association, and the chairperson and the secretary of the Traditional Healers Association were midwives. The questions that they asked were colonial questions, even though they're chairing a Traditional Healers Association. But I understood that. I understood the contradictions. We carry contradictions all the time. By
Mhm.
virtue of having been colonized, we carry contradictions. So
Mhm.
when that happened, I understood what was happening. You know, so I I have just been appointed as a research associate for at the Department of Nursing at the University of Pretoria, and one of the things that they want me to do is to start thinking about decolonizing maternal health. It's going to be, yeah, it's going to be a marathon. I have no idea where I'm going to start. Um, but like everything else, I immerse myself gently into a space and believing that the experience will teach me, including the people that I meet, including those who disagree with me. that they too will help me to sharpen my thoughts about something.
And what is the why how has this project come about that they want you to do this?
I a few months ago, a few weeks ago, I hosted a retreat which was organized by Black Women's Blueprint. And because they were in the team, there were some professors of nursing who were from New York. And then I thought, okay, because there are scholars in the team, it makes sense for me to organize like a dialogue with the Department of Nursing and Midwifery. And it was quite an intense interaction. And afterwards, the head then said to me, we are actually struggling with the issues that were discussed.
Mm,
Maybe you could come in and help us. And my issue was, I don't know the answers, but the most important thing is to ask the questions.
mhm,
And then the answers will come.
mm. Yes, it looks like you have some work cut out. But what at least fuels me is I think that this is global. You know, like this is a global conversation. I don't think that there's I mean, maybe there's some very select areas that are doing a pretty good job, but the impact of the state and the church and birth going from a home to a hospital and a male dominated event and no longer a spiritual event, no longer an event held by women. Like this has been hundreds of years in the making worldwide, and the impact of like medical colonization especially has impacted the majority of the world. So we stand here like this collective of us here on Zoom with these huge questions of like,
Yeah.
what do we do as birth workers? Like, you know, I say this all the time, but like we are the foot soldiers in the maternal health revolution, and we are so desperately in dire need of this revolution. And I feel as though like you, of all the women I've met in the world, you are one of like the core leaders of this revolution. Like I think that you and I have talked about this before, but like you are serving quite a spiritual purpose here on this earth, and you have the understanding, and I feel as though you channel the ancestors and you also channel the future descendants. And so you clearly have vision, and I would like to follow it. I would like to follow the vision. So please tell us more about the vision.
It's a very difficult thing. When you say that you are the co-leader, I mean, I want to smash the screen. Like, don't call me that. Okay?
Maybe
Why?
a thought leader.
Because it's painful. It's a painful process. Um, I have been going through a process of initiation with elders for some time now. Next week, Thursday, is a huge ceremony in my home. The different kinds of healers will be here. And I've been struggling with depression for the past 2 weeks. I've been struggling with depression. I've been weepy. And I can't even explain why. And my explanation is perhaps it's the culmination of the journey. Perhaps it's preparation for what's going to happen on Thursday. Perhaps also depression humbles you, right? Perhaps I need to be humbled by heavy heart, painful, not sleeping. And also depression will make sure that you don't run around and do too many things. So even though I'm one person who does so many things, for the past 2 weeks, all I've been doing is eat, cry, sleep, and spend time with my family. And it's also difficult for people when you are the strong one. When you are the strong one, now you're the one who's falling apart. What's going
Mhm,
on, right?
mhm,
And then luckily, I have learned to be very comfortable with my vulnerability as well. That vulnerability teaches us something. So I have no idea how I'm going to feel after Thursday. This morning, when I was having a shower, the guide said to me, "Are you aware that the training wheels are off? You are now riding this on your own. You're riding the bicycle on your own." What does that mean? It means trust. It means making time for solitude, for connection, for meditation, for listening, and also being aware of the doubt that comes when the voice says something to you. Being aware of, oh no, I have doubts because of this. And I always say that the thing about the current education is that it focuses on logic and the rational mind. There's no school where we learn about the power of intuition. If we learned about the power of intuition, we wouldn't struggle this much. So yes, I am one of those. And in the last few decades that I left, this is something that I want to immerse myself in. My biggest dream is to build a birthing space with designs and everything, round buildings, designs and everything, where we start from preconception right through, to the end. Because I've been speaking to a few people in South Africa about this, even some African women, midwives, say, how about I bring this, you will take care of the biomedical side, and then I'll bring the spiritual side. And the answer is always like, I don't do the African things. And it's African people who say, I don't do the African things. And when they say that, I also understand. I'm sure if somebody approached me at that time when I was being trained as a biomedical midwife, I'll probably say the same thing. So yeah, it's not an easy journey. But having said that, I wouldn't choose any other. I wouldn't choose any other life. This is perfect. And it's my last life. So I must just make sure that I pay all the spiritual debts. And I don't even want to come back as a talented musician. Right.
No, I think you're so clearly on your mission. And I also, you were talking at the beginning about water and how there's softness in water and there's also power in water. And I use the expression all the time, nose up, toes up, like when you're rafting and you fall out of the boat, in order to not get your foot caught on like a rock and then drowning to death, you have to keep your nose up and your toes up. And sometimes that water, I think that's kind of potentially where you're at right now. It's just that water
Yeah.
is flowing
Yeah.
really, really, really hard. And I have no doubt that you'll keep your nose up and your toes up because you have
Yeah.
tremendous work to do, but then you'll get to a point of
Yeah.
floating again. But sometimes
Yeah.
I think for all of us, we have felt that in different moments
Yeah.
of our life, like carrying this work and being birth workers and being like, professional empathizers and just carrying so much. And you carry so much, and you're creating so much, and you're putting so much content out there. And and yeah, I think your body you can only hold so much that sometimes it needs to
Yeah.
just
That's true.
cry.
Yeah. 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 In fact, I mean, my plan is for the whole of August, is to be offline completely, just so that my body can recharge, especially after the ceremony next week.
Would you be comfortable sharing a little bit about what the ceremony might entail?
I have no idea.
Cool.
I have no idea. I know there's four different healers that I have worked with, and each of them brings a different way of centering my guides. I carry fire spirits. I carry water spirits. I carry my own biological, both from paternal, maternal. And yeah, so I don't know what that United States of Ancestors is going to look like.
Cool.
Yeah.
What a journey. What a journey. I have so many potential follow-up questions for you, but I would be curious if any of our participants would like to ask anything, or Mmatshilo, if you feel like there's anything else at this time that's weighing on you that's come up in conversation that you would like to elaborate more on before I open the floor up.
I no, I'm happy. I wasn't sure how this is going to work because I'm heavy. I'm not my light self, right? But I also know that when I step into the zone takes over. So I'm happy at how this has turned out.
Mhm.
So
And
at
I'm
this
happy.
point, I'm happy to answer any questions or comments as well.
Yeah, Lindsay, go ahead. Thanks for raising your hand. So cute.
Good morning. Good morning. I've had my
Thank
camera off because I'm very much just enjoying this weekend morning and lovely listening to you speak, but I've just kind of been decompressing. Good morning to everyone. Um, I I'm still forming my question, but I think that it has something to do with doing this work and trying to reach your ancestors. Um, when you feel a bit disconnected from them, how what what does that look like? Are there specific practices that you would recommend in doing this work, particularly I've lost both of my parents,
you.
and I feel like when I often want to, as I delve deeper into my birth work, like I so wish I could sit with my mother and hear her birth experiences. I feel like it would do so much for me and my knowledge and being able to show up. And I don't have that opportunity in the same ways. So yeah, my question is connecting in that way and your thoughts around that. Thank you.
Right. Firstly, you have not lost them. You have not lost your parents. They've just changed form. So it means that you can access them. It means you can speak to them. It means you can share whatever you want to share with your mom or your dad. And when you understand that you have not lost them, when they visit, you feel them. There's a running joke in the house in my family because my dad visits everybody, and then we were like, when is this guy resting? He is all over. So yes, but also when you're disconnected, if you have a shrine or an altar, and you just sit there and not say anything. If you don't have words, silence is also okay. Because your ancestors can read your silence. They understand your silence. They know what you are going through. So I think if you don't have an altar, there's other things. You can think about other things that makes you feel whole, that you do, and do them. Yeah, do them. But I think the most important thing is you have not lost your parents. They're still your parents. Spiritually, they're there, and they will never leave you alone.
Thank you. Thank you, Lindsay, for asking.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I spent that whole time trying to figure out how to unmute myself. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That was very
Thank
insightful.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
What other questions do you all have?
Or comments.
Or comments? Yes.
I have one of those beautiful questions that's still in formation as it's leaving my thoughts here. I think I feel very called to this work. I'm currently working as a doula and I would like to become a midwife, and that's been I've had that awareness for 16 years now. So I think there was a point where I was like, oh no, I won't do this because the tension between the biomedical model and what I feel called to bring, there will be too much tension there and I won't be able to sustain it. And that sort of resistance lasted like not very long. And then I was like, no, I think I just need to connect with elders and people who are able to straddle the tension and straddle the contradictions and the two examples that you shared of going to share your research findings with the chair and just being able to understand the contradictions. And then also another example, oh, when you were talking to midwives and they say, oh well, we won't do the African things, and you're able to understand, right? I like crave that understanding, and I know that I'm young and I've barely stepped into the tension, but as someone who's kind of shying away birth work or like continuing or deepening because of that. I wonder if you can speak to when that ability to kind of hold those contradictions with compassion and ease. I don't know how easy they feel. I don't know. But I don't know if you can
Yeah,
speak a little bit.
it can start now.
Okay.
It can start today. It can start the more you stop wrestling with it.
Yeah.
The more you stop wrestling with it. You don't have to be 60 or 70 to be able to negotiate the contradictions, because at the level of the soul, you are complete. You at the soul, you're not young. You are complete. So just be gentle with yourself in the wrestling. Be aware of the tensions and the wrestling. And find a way of I don't know if you maybe you should start weaving as a hobby. Right? And weave different colors and different textures. Weave different colors and textures as part of your merging the differences.
Yeah.
And that will be something that you do. And as you weave, you also weave your thoughts. You weave your tensions and everything. So you don't have to wait until you are my age, because we need more and more of us who can weave this now, not later.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Piggybacking off of that, Haley, I'm curious, Mmatshilo, if you do have advice on I know that there are several people present that are entering midwifery and as a practice, and how just do you have tools for them, advice on how to remain a spiritual guide or how to hone that skill while also learning in the biomedical system that is in place?
There's two parts. There's the technical part and there's the spiritual part. And training focuses on the technique of supporting a birthing person, and how you can do it in hospital where you probably cannot do a ritual, is to say something in your heart, silently, or listen to the voice that tells you to say something in your heart. I always say to people, it is possible to communicate energetically without saying words. So in a space where we are not able to say certain things, we can communicate them energetically. But also be aware of the resistance. Part of you may resist the spiritual hogwash. Okay? It's also okay. It may resist it. When it resists it, when you are aware, and when the time is right, you'll understand why you resisted it. Something is going to happen in your life. An experience is going to happen in your life to reflect to you why you had such a strong resistance to it. I'm aware when I resist something very strongly, I keep note of the resistance. Why does this impact on me so strongly? Why does this person make me feel like this, right? So I kind of keep note of the resistance and knowing that the answer will come at some point to make me understand why I resist something. So it's what I'm saying is that it's not going to be like kumbaya, harmony, technical, spiritual, we're weaving. It's not going to be easy. But stepping into the space, knowing that it's not going to be easy, but it's possible. It's the beginning. But all of it, most of it, starts from inside. It starts from our relationship with our bodies. I mean, I run a course. I'm starting a course next week called Honoring Women's Blood. Because, I mean, we have been told to be ashamed of menstrual blood. We carry shame, we carry guilt. What are the messages that we have been told about our bodies? So part of, and that for me is preconceptual work. That by the time you're ready to have a baby, you have dealt with, all the trash that we have been fed as women through centuries.
I'm going to drop information about that course in our chat. I'm just pulling it up right now.
Okay, and the honoring women's blood course, if there are those who are in the course who want to be part of it, I am happy to give 50% discount to those who may want to be part of it. You and I will, if there's people who are interested, you and I will be in communication and we can create a code for them
Great.
to use
So
to register.
follow up with either one of us, and we'll get you enrolled. But I
Right.
did just drop the link in the chat. Check it out. Yes, you cannot go wrong taking a course from Mmatshilo. I put this in my newsletter the other day, but someone was talking to one of her students who I'm working with in Tanzania as well. And she was like, yeah, I signed up for the spirituality of African childbirth, but I didn't know that Mmatshilo would be forcing me to heal myself. So you're doing very good work. Doing very, very good work.
Thank you. Thank
Cindy,
you.
you've had your hand raised.
Hi, greetings. I just wanted to say greetings to Mmatshilo. She knows who I am because I took her course last year.
Oh, yeah. So lovely to see you. Where's your baby? You're supposed to be
Yeah,
on screen with the baby.
she's
Yeah,
right here.
I want to see a baby.
Right.
Hi, baby.
Hi. Hello. So nice to see you, Cindy.
Same to you, Mmatshilo. It's great to hear from you and great to hear that you're with us today to learn more about you. And, it's just a joy to have you with us again today. I wanted to make a comment about um, how your course has changed me for the better. Um, I'm still in the process of looking for a right fit for midwifery school to attend, but I mean, your class really opened my eyes to so many different things, and I just wanted to say give thanks, Um, it was a powerful course, and I highly recommend it, to anyone who's interested in taking a course like that, because Mmatshilo is the bomb. Great. Um, One of the things that I wanted to ask is something that you mentioned earlier about the term traditional birth assistant and what that means. Um, with your work with indigenous midwives, have some of them gone on to accept that kind of terminology? Because I am reading a book called Safe in the Hands of Midwives. And one of the things that the author keeps on mentioning is that through her research into the different countries that she's visited and talking to indigenous midwives, that's something that they continually utter in the book, that they're traditional birth assistants. So with your work, Mmatshilo, have you found that that's something that's widely accepted amongst indigenous midwives to call themselves that?
No, we still, even the scholars and researchers and midwives still talk about traditional birth attendants. So I think it's something that I have included in the course and in the book. I finished the book, by the way. It will be available next year. And I go in depth as to my issue is those who name us determine what our role is.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And somehow traditional birth attendant reduces a role that is so vast and comprehensive. It reduces it to somebody's assistant.
Right.
Yeah. So it's something that has not caught fire yet. It's something that I found in my research and I wrote about. And sometimes when I speak to midwives, and I explain why I don't use traditional birth attendant. Sometimes they get offended, but this is the whole thing of understanding the journey and why we end up using certain labels, which we later change. Yeah.
Give thanks for sharing that. I feel the
Yeah.
same way, you know.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for being, you know, the beacon of light that you are amongst the indigenous midwives in South Africa, and I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to tell my daughter that I saw you, because sometimes we think of you and laugh about the things that you used to say in the course.
Okay.
Thank
Tell
you.
the readers too. Okay.
Thank you.
There's a question in the chat about your course of honoring women's blood, on what time of day the live Zooms will take place.
As evening, 6 p.m. my time. It will be around this time.
Yep. So 6 p.m. That's Central Europe for Patina. I think you're in
6
Europe.
p.m. South African Central Time.
Mhm. There'll be a time change at some point where there's an hour difference, but
Yeah. But I mean, it's the same thing that if people can't come, they will get a recording.
amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know y'all have other questions. Okay, I've got one for you, Mmatshilo. You were talking about your vision for the birth center, the birthing house that you'd like to open, and how you envision it being like round structures. I would just be curious as to like what the dream for you would be of an ideal birthing situation for women.
The idea of
The birth house that you want to open, that like your dream
Mhm.
of opening a birth center. So you were talking a little bit about like you have the vision of round structures and obviously incorporating ceremonial components into it. I would just be curious, like what else do you
Yeah.
envision? What else is
You
part of
know,
that dream?
I in the chapter that I wrote on decolonization of birth work, I was so surprised to find in my research how much design and architecture impact on the hormones. For instance, the first thing that elders do in a round birthing hut is make fire. And then when I read, there's a link scientifically of the sight of the fire and the warmth and its impact on oxytocin, you know, and also then the round structure relates to the significance of a circle in African cosmology, that a circle signifies no beginning, no end. A circle signifies no one is in front or behind. So a round structure allows for the village of women who are around you when you're giving birth to be around you with no one behind. Yeah, and I was also interested to find how when I read about neurobiology of birth, that birth does not belong in a hospital. Childbirth does not belong in a hospital. White walls, square rooms, noise, light all the time, all of that, you know, is said to suppress, you know, the release of birth hormones. And this is something that is also coming up more and more. Obviously, right now, maternity wards were built in hospital because of the profitability of childbirth. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I hope that it comes to fruition at some point in the near future.
Yeah, I hope so.
There is a question in the chat, and it says, what sacred or grounding practices do you lean into to nourish yourself after birth work or holding space for others?
I haven't done, for some time, I have not done active birth work. I've largely been doing research and talking to elders. But what I have learned from, I'll give you an example, especially postpartum. Postpartum is the one time where we need to be cared for the most. An example that one woman gave who had a baby through a C-section and when it was in hospital. She says the only time I started healing is when I got home. When I stayed in that birthing heart, when my grandmothers took care of me, when they did rituals for me, when they bathed the baby, when they cooked food that allow for milk, for lactation, for milk production. When they also kind of boiled herbs that ensures healing. So there are those different rituals that elders do for grounding. And for me, I see it as mothering the mother. Mothering the mother is the most important part of birthing. And usually, within the biomedical system, once you have a baby or you are alive, the baby is alive, okay, now you can be discharged. It's the end of story. There is no space for mothering the mother. But in terms of my own grounding, every morning I have my little healing space. I go there, you know, I do my rituals. And if I'm called to divine, I do divination as well to hear what the elders have to say about me. I have water in the room, which I get right at the top of a mountain in Drakensberg. I only go there once a year. I only go and get water there once a year. So for it to sustain me as medicine, it's almost like you drink it with a spoon or something. So there are different rituals, inviting my ancestors. Sometimes my kids join me, and they also participate in the rituals, calling their own ancestors. So, but also in the grounding, I don't necessarily have to go to a particular place every morning. I can ground myself anywhere. I could be in an Uber, as an example, and then I feel rattled, right? And inside of me, I connect. So you can connect anyway. You can ground yourself anyway. You don't just need to go to an altar or a special place, simply because we are spiritual beings. And when we feel rattled and we call on the spirit part of us to help us to ground, it does happen.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bettina, did you have a question? You had your hand up for a second and then took it down.
Oh, I just wanted to share something. It wasn't a question. May I?
Please,
Yeah.
please.
About what you said about how the birth room looks like and how the birth environment is, that everything is like a suggestion. So, it means that because we are in this altered state of mind, that of course, if it's something round, that you have this ancient symbol around you, that it will be a big opening and there are no edges to stuck.
Yeah.
And of course, if it's fire, because I learned from a Mexican midwife, traditional midwife, you may know her, Angelina Martinez. And she said about that how birth in her culture is a cold event. So the mother lost, warmth, and how fire and how carrying with the mother and holding the mother, it helps her to have this energy because she's losing life and cold. I just wanted to share how beautiful it is that you are thinking of all these, and that how in all the cultures there are these the same thing somehow, just in different forms, but there is this wisdom we all know. So
Yes.
just thank you.
And one of the things that I always mention is that it doesn't matter where you are. We come from indigenous communities. We have lost knowledge. There was a time when I was talking from someone from the Sami community in Norway. And when we shared experiences, we were surprised how similar, the rituals are, and how she too was lamenting the loss. We might think that Norway was not colonized in the same way as Africa was, but there's a way in which industrialization and all these other factors have, disconnected us from Earth. When Descartes came up with the notion of separating the body and the mind and the soul, that resonates very well with the patriarchal notion of nature can be dominated. Right. So all of that are issues that impact us, but they impact us differently. For Africa, when we speak about how the womb was also a site of colonization, so there's different levels in which all of these forces have impacted on us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you all have any other questions coming to mind right now?
If there are no questions, it means that there's a lot for people to process, and that's also okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Would you mind taking these last few minutes that we have just to talk a little bit about our trip?
Oh, okay. We have days, right, from February to March.
Yes.
It's 12 days. We will spend some time with me. I will do the initial grounding and speak to some of the issues that I have been talking about today. And then we will do some rituals in nature, like drumming in a cave, immersing ourselves in a waterfall. And then we'll also spend some time with elders, learn from them directly, ask questions, participate in the rituals. And for as I said, because the group that's coming has not been through the course, we have to, like a few months before, I take you through a few sessions, just so that when you come, you are on the same page. I'll tell you why I say that. Sometimes it's painful to have to receive people who have a rescuer mentality. The view of Africa still as backward as this, as that. I avoid that. I don't want to be engaging in a space where, like I always say, I can't go to Mexico to learn from Mexican midwives and get there, and all I do is, no, we do this, we do this, we do this, we do that. Meaning that I lose an opportunity to listen and learn from Mexican midwives. So there's a way in which we need to check on our positionality, and therefore the few sessions we will do will be addressing issues around cultural humility, and cultural humility does not mean that you agree with what is said. You could still have cultural humility, but still not agree or not believe in what is being shared. That's basically why. And I have to tell you, after this year, I experienced trauma that I don't want to experience again with groups. That's why I have decided that I am no longer going to take retreats from people who have not been through the course. In your case, we have agreed that we are going ahead. So we will have to create a few sessions for those who want to join, so that to some extent we are on the same page. And it's also important for people for us to understand why people want to come. I mean, why people want to come, what are their expectations, what are their concerns, and all of that. So it's going to be grounding, it's going to be rituals in nature, it's going to be spending time with elders, it's going to be a bit of touristy things, like maybe going to Kruger Park or whatever to see animals. So we combine that. We combine the spiritual element with the understanding of the culture of the country. So we are looking forward to it.
Me too. And we also have, I'm all for adding, we should add some dates to the book sooner than later, because that trip is 6 months out now. But we also have that same, we have like we call it our culture, I don't know what we call it. our cultural preparation course, our cultural sensitivity, curiosity, humility preparation course, because I've, you've run 2 of them now. After running a few dozen of them, there's always the trauma
Yeah,
that
sure.
comes up because of how people
Sure.
are going to show up and what their intentions are.
Sure.
And I think what's really cool about, you all even signing up for this online series or coming to the summit is that, and I know a lot of you from online courses as well, it's like you're curious about this, like you're hungry for this, you want to know this is speaking to you on a deeper level. And I am so grateful for you all being here, whatever time of day it is for you. It's getting close to midnight my time, so I'm a little spacey, but just so grateful for the journey that we're walking collectively as birth workers with this curiosity and with this open heart. And thank you to you, Mmatshilo, for being who you are in this world and for giving your last life to maternal health and inspiring so many birth workers and doing so much work and setting the example for us as spiritual guides in this work as well. So thank you so much for that.
Right. Yeah. I think, and then my request to everyone is because I'm going through a heavy space towards Thursday, just for people to send me healing energies and good vibes so that everything works out well.
Gladly. What Maria Jose is doing is estrellitas. It's what we do in our Ecuador program. We like send stars at the end of someone speaking to send our love to them.
Thank you.
I don't want to rush this coming to a close, but I also want to honor your time and just the collective energy here. Do you all have other questions, or Mmatshilo, do you have any final words of wisdom, a collective prayer that we should all hear for the birth workers of the world, perhaps? No pressure.
I think the ways that come is I count, I belong. That's the 2 words that I'd like us to end with. I do count and I belong.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
If everybody has the opportunity to turn on their camera so I can take a screenshot of faces, I would so deeply appreciate that, but also no pressure. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, look at those adorable faces. All right. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Thank you so much. We will see you in 2 weeks. And Mmatshilo, you're welcome to join. And also, you're talking about the midwives in Mexico. I hope you come on our Mexico program, but we'll talk about that some other time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you all so much for being here.
Okay.
And you'll hear from us soon, and I'll send the recording out and everything like that. And you'll get info for 2 weeks from now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a
Thank
great
you.